Nice to see you, Nice. Turn to somebody near to you and say, I'm so glad that I'm me. Now say to the same person, I'm so glad that I'm not you. If you'd been stood with that copper at the edge of that river, you'd have heard us. Earlier that week, I was practicing DJing while whizzing off my head on amphetamines. You should have seen me. I looked like Gallum on speed behind decks. I'd practiced for months, and then that day at last, I got the knack of mixing two tunes in time, Waka Wong, and in key, Choka Chong, every time. As you'd expect, I was buzzing. Then Tanya, my girlfriend, walked in. Tanya had the looks. She had red hair. She didn't do drugs, but by now, she'd worked out that I did. She didn't need the skills of Sherlock to have sussed that. Tanya, watch this. I can mix in time, Waka Wong, and in key, Choka Chong, every time. Big deal, I'm not bothered. I've just got in from work. Anyway, I don't think I can do this anymore, Barry. Look at the state you're in. I know you're off your head, you always are. I've just not said out before. We had a massive row and split up. So I put my gear in the car and got off. 58 hours later, I arrived in Buxton. It was only 35 miles away. I was convinced that the big man upstairs had sent me there, and that now, tooled up with my Technics, turntables and tunes, that I was going to be a famous DJ and that I was going to make a record. Wow. I knocked on 10 bed and breakfast doors. I'm going to be a famous DJ. I'm going to make a record. I need a room. I didn't get one. Is any wonder? I don't think Diggs and the Sticks are used to this at 2 o'clock in the morning. I went for a mooch round this public park. There's the river. If I cross that, I'm going to be proper famous. So I stripped off. I got in. I got out the other side. Then I came to this big old building with a glass door. Bang, bang, bang. A woman peeked through. You should have seen her face. She didn't give me room either. Next minute, I saw a blue flashing light. Oh no, it's the dibble. So I legged it back down to the river. When I jump in there, I'm going to fall through the bottom and get away. So I jumped, and that bit was only that deep. So I hit the bottom instead. Then that copper looked over the edge. He'd taken his hat off, and he had a short sleeve shirt on. What are you doing in there like that at this time? Come here. He reached down to lend me his hand. Hey, officer, I'm going to be a famous DJ. I'm going to make a record. Are you now, lad? Yeah, I just need a room. I think I can help you find one of them. I ended up in Leicester prison on remand with a room down the hospital wing. I wasn't well. I was damaged. I was on that broken path. Do you know that we all wind up on that broken path at some point? Because damage happens to us all. Damage caused by our own personal dramas. You'll find we've all been on that path. It's not just me. So what helpful truths can we find if we take a trip back down that broken path? Let's go see. To kick off, that broken path is where repairs can get actioned. Picture this. You're driving a car and you stop at a T-junction waiting to turn right. Then a double-decker bus comes beside you and stops waiting to turn left. Then the bus sets off, but as it swings around the corner, the back end of the bus hits the side of your car so hard that it jolts you. what would you do? Take a picture of the reg, phone a friend, get out and take a Facebook selfie, check that didn't, ow, my back's killing me. Or would you bomb it after the bus, like I did when it happened to me on Boundary Lane in Hume? Fast and Furious style, in my 16-plate Focus. I'd put my passenger window down ready so you could smell the burning rubber as I did an handbrake turn in front of it to stop him. Well, kind of. Hey, mate! His comb over popped out. What? You've just hit the side of my car. No, I haven't. Yeah, you have. When you pulled out back there, you knocked into me. You must have felt it. Felt what? That wasn't me. Get off and come and have a look. So I got out and went to the side of my car. Look at the state of that there. Look at all that orange and white paint in there. That's not off mine. Are you having a laugh? You can't say that's not off yours. Look, there's even some of my black there on the corner in that massive scuff on yours. That's not black, that's dark grey. That's black. Forged shadow black to be exact. How can you be so hard-faced? You're banged to rights, mate. Looks like I am really, doesn't it? I better give me details then, hadn't I? When I got home, I phoned my insurance. A bus just hit me and damaged the side of my car. Okay, sir, someone from our local body shop will be in touch to arrange to pick it up. Later that day, they came and took my car away and they repaired the damage. Do you know, in a similar fashion, God can repair the damage done to us, but he's the master repairer. Because he's able to repair damaged hearts, he's able to repair damaged emotions, and he's even able to repair the damage done to us by those hard-faced so-and-sos who try to deny it like the bus driver did. Listen, that broken path is where repairs can get actioned. Think about the damage that's landed you on that broken path. Listen, God can repair that damage. He can reach down to lend you his hand. A guy in the Bible, Job, man, he was proper damaged by all the drama that had happened to him. But then God flipped the script. It says that God restored him and gave him back twice as much. See, that broken path is where repairs can get actioned. I was in that public park. It was way gone 2 in the morning. Hey, officer, I'm going to be a famous DJ. I'm going to make a record. That broken path is where repairs can get actioned. And aside from this, that broken path can have an end point. Raise your hand if you have ever been the kind of person to write letters with a pen. For the younger ones, this is how we used to send a message to someone before the likes of emailing, DMing and WhatsApping. Do you know, apart from those I wrote in prison, I've only ever sat down once to write a letter this way. This was to me mum. It's the only letter I've ever sent her. I've still got the letter because our kid found it in a biscuit tin underneath my mum's bed after she'd died. I wrote this during a period on that path towards the end when I was a bit of a hostel resider. By this stage I was so poor, I used to turn my bikini tracksuit bottoms inside out to get another 6 months out of them. If you'd been in my room at that table, you'd have seen me writing it, and you'd have seen me use the old tatty DJ mag as a straight edge to try and keep the lines straight. Ma'am, I thought I'd drop you a line to let you know how I'm doing. This Sally Army hostel in Rochdale is so much better than the one in Salford. The staff and residents are really friendly and dead down to earth. It costs me 21 quid a week, and I get my breakfast, dinner, tea, supper, all in. and it's the best food I've ever eaten. Ma'am, I'm looking for a cheap black and white telly. If you see one about a tenner, let me know. I've been travelling around on my free bus pass, and I've asked our Kev to post me up the cheap bootleg tobacco. So don't worry about me up here. I'm fine. Love you, ma'am. Baz. P.S. I bet you didn't know I could write letters, did you? As you can see, I was stuck on that broken path. Then God reached down to lend me his hand to take me off that path. And so my days on there are done. Listen, that broken path can have an end point. A guy out of the Bible, Paul, he was on that broken path more than once during the course of his lifetime. And he said, yet God rescued me from them all. Are you on that broken path? Because you've been damaged in some way? Maybe you've wound up on there recently. Or it could be you've been stuck on there for some time. Listen. 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 However long you've been on there, or even if you've been on there more than once, God can take you off that path. Same as he did with me, see? That broken path can have an end point. I was in that public park, it was way gone 2 a.m. Hey officer, I'm going to be a famous DJ. I'm going to make a record. That broken path is where repairs can get actioned. That broken path can have an end point, and that broken path positions you to get next to the broken. If you got chatting with Si, you clock his Stokey accent, his half gold front tooth, and his big heart for broken blokes. We first got chatting after I'd spoken in Dudgate prison way back when we first started working in jails. It was at that time when we started our prison project, which is to give a free copy of Once an Addict to every single prisoner in the UK. We're still on with that. Right now, there's 78,000 prisoners behind bars in the UK, post-COVID. So far, as Adam mentioned, we've sent, as a charity, 50,000 copies of that book out, free of charge. There's one small way you can support that. Adam mentioned it, but I'm going to mention it again. For every 1 copy of Once an Addict you buy, we then send 2 into prisons for free. That's just one small way. And all the proceeds that come in through that table there go into our charity, but that is kind of earmarked for our work that we do in jails, because we don't get any funding for what we do in jails. In churches we do, but we don't get anything from the prisons because they can't afford it. We used to do in the early days, but that's changed in the last 10 years. Si was doing time in Dovegate. I can't really tell you what he was in for, but I can tell you it involved a post office, a sawn-off shotgun, and a balaclava. He was given a 12 stretch. He was on that broken path. But then God reached down to lend him his hand when he was in his cell. Now Si heads up the walk with his wife Karen, an organisation that was set up to get alongside prisoners when they're released. If you'd been with me just recently, you'd have seen me ask him about it. Si, I remember when the walk was getting off the ground, but tell me about the journey, mate. It started off when I was inside, bro. Towards the end of my sentence, I was working down the reception, and I kept seeing lads leaving, and within no time they'd be back, and I thought, I've been on that path, the same one as them, but now God's got me back, so when I get out, I'm going to do something to help. That was 8 years ago, bro. Nowadays, we've got a detox centre, a recovery home, 3 support houses, and 14 semi-supported apartments. So far since the start, we've seen 706 men through, bro. See, that broken path positions you to get next to the broken. That guy out of the Bible who'd been on that broken path more than once, Paul, he said this too. God comes alongside us when we're going through it, and before you know it, he brings us alongside someone else who's going through it. See, when we get through it, we can then help others to navigate their way through it. Listen, that broken path positions you to get next to the broken. I was in that public park. It was way gone 2 a.m. Hey, officer, I'm going to be a famous DJ. I'm going to make a record. That broken path is where repairs can get actioned. That broken path can have an end point. That broken path positions you to get next to the broken, and as well as these, that broken path is where you can switch paths. You had to be there to hear how she said it. A little while back, I made an appointment at my doctor's to see a nurse for a routine checkup. 2 days before I went, I got a text. Dear patient, your annual mental health review is due. Annual mental health review. They must have mixed it up. They sent me this instead of the reminder. So I go to my doctor's and I'm sitting there waiting. Barry Woodward, this way, please. When I got into the treatment room, the nurse was sat at a computer. She had big brown glasses on, her hair was tied back, and I'm sure that perfume was Gucci Rush. Right then, Mr. Woodward, what are you here for now? Let's have a look. You're here for your annual mental health review, aren't you? No, I don't have a mental health review. I'm just here for a checkup. Well, it says here, Mr. Woodward, that you're due one. I can't be, because I don't have them anymore. I did do, though, whilst I was seeing a psychiatrist back when I heard voices and I was an addict. But then I stopped seeing one. Why did you stop seeing one, Mr. Woodward? Because there's no need. Not since the voices vanished and I ditched the drugs after I had a eureka moment in a church. It was like I'd switched paths. Very interesting. Very interesting indeed, that. And it was the way that she said it. I knew what she was thinking. Are you sure there's no need for you to see a psychiatrist, Mr. Woodward? Listen up. That broken path is where you can switch paths. Could you do with switching from that path that you're on? Look. 2,000 years ago, 2,000 miles away, God became a man. His name is Jesus. Jesus is God with skin on. And he came to this earth and he was tempted just like you, but he resisted temptation. And at the age of 33, he allowed himself to be nailed to a cross. He was damaged. He was on that broken path, but he was on there for you though. Because he died on that cross to pay the price for your faults, for your flaws and for your failures. He died on that cross so that it can wipe your slate clean and to pave the way for you to switch paths. There's a saying in the Bible by a guy with a top mind. He said, be wise and always have enough sense to follow the right path. Listen, that broken path is where you can switch paths. But you need to make the change. As you can imagine, when you get to speak in lots of places, you get to stay in lots of hotels. I'm what you might call a hotel hopper. I mean, this is local. I never get no local. This is like totally local. Thursday, I got off down to Wales for 6 days and down to Bournemouth for another 5-6 days and back up to Coventry. So that's my usual. But I plan local stuff in as well so I can spend a little bit of time with the wife. Just to remind myself that and to remind her that I do exist. One time, I locked myself out of a hotel really late at night. Oh, flip! What a numbskull! What do I do? Do I force my way in, or do I bide my time out here until somebody lets me in? Sat that, life's too short. So I grabbed the handle, turned it, and started jolting the door. going crazy. You should have seen me. It looked like a frenzied Jackie Chan on steroids. After about an hour, the electric lock clicked and the door flung open. Oh, that was close. I'm knackered. Hope there's no cameras out here though. Imagine that clip popping up on your Facebook timeline. Do you know, in a sense, this scenario is the same as us and God. See, God is outside. He wants to come in. But he'll never try to force his way in like I did. So, he bides his time on the outside until we let him in. He puts it this way in God's instruction, but the Bible, it says, here I am, I stand at the door. So he stands at your door. He bides his time outside your door until you open it and give him consent to come in. And when you give him consent to come in, he reaches down to lend you his hand. Listen, that broken path is where you can switch past, but you need to make the change. And that's up to you. I'm going to close out now by spinning back to that scene, me behind my decks. Tanya, watch this. I can mix in time, waka wong, and in key, chock a chong, every time. Big deal, I'm not bothered. Don't think I can do this anymore, Baz. 58 hours later, I was in Buxton. I'm going to be a famous DJ. I'm going to make a record. I need a room. I got a room in the end. Down the hospital wing in Leicester Prison. I wasn't well. I was damaged. I was on that broken path. That path that we've all been on. Please stand. No going outside for a smoke just yet. Jan. Listen up. Listen up. Right now, God is set to reach down to lend you his hand. He's biding his time outside your door. But you need to give him consent. You need to make the change. What are you going to do? I'm going to pray a prayer. And I'm going to invite two groups of people in the room. If you're watching online, I'm going to tell you what to do in a minute. But if you're in the room, I'm going to invite two groups of people to pray this prayer. The first group are those people who've never prayed a prayer before. You've never given God consent to come in. It could be that you've prayed crisis prayers. I've prayed loads of those. God, give me bail. Nothing wrong with crisis prayers. It could be that you've been attending this church or even another place before coming here to please your partner, to please a friend, but you as an individual, you've never given God consent to come in. He stood outside your door. It could be that you've been holding off for whatever reason. Your pride's getting in the way of you making that change, giving God consent to come into your life. Park your pride outside. Pride can stop you connecting with God. So the first group, those people you've never prayed a prayer before, you're going to pray this prayer with me. If you're watching online and you've never prayed a prayer before to give God consent to come in, you can pray this prayer with us in this room. The second group of people are those people, you have prayed a prayer in the past, you've given God consent to come in, you've got going on your Christian journey, but right now, for whatever reason, you're not living how I want you to live. The Bible says there's no condemnation for you. But I want to say to the second group, whether you're watching online or in the room, if that's you, pray this prayer to get back on track. Get back into the groove of your Christian faith. So those two groups of people, whether you're watching online, in the room, you're going to pray this prayer with me. And if you're in the room and you're not part of those two groups, you're going to pray this prayer to encourage those who are praying it for the first time and the second time. Amen. Are we ready? Let's pray this prayer together. Repeat after me. Dear God, I come to you today and I admit that I'm not perfect, God, I ask that you forgive me for my faults, for my flaws, and for my failures. God, I ask that you wipe my slate clean, because right now I'm saying I want to switch paths. And God, I ask that you action the repairs that need to be done in my life. And God, I ask that you take me off that broken path. If you're in the room and you prayed that prayer, you're part of the first group or the second group, can you raise your hand so I can see it? Got one here. Anybody else? 2, 3, 4. Put your hands down. There's 4 people. If you're watching online, keep watching. There's 4 people in the room who's prayed that prayer. There might be a few more of you. I'm going to count down 5 seconds just to give the rest of you who've not raised your hand 5 extra seconds. If you've raised it already, you don't need to raise it. But as I count down 5 seconds, it's giving you 5 extra seconds to raise your hand. Anybody else prayed that prayer? Raise your hand so I can see it. 5. Anybody else prayed that prayer so I can see it? Got another one here. Got you already? Thank you. So that's 5 altogether. Anybody else? 3, 2, 1. If you're watching online, just put in the comment box or the chat, I prayed that prayer. Doesn't matter when you're watching this, sometime in the future from today, whenever you're watching this, just put, I prayed that prayer in the chat or the comment box, and someone will be in touch with you to tell you what you need to do next. So there's 6 people in the room who's prayed that prayer. I'm going to count to 3. On the point of 3, you're going to leave your seats and you're going to come out, you're going to go through that door. And someone from the church is going to come and stand with you. They're going to give you a card with a QR code on that you need to scan. That will take you to a video, and I will explain what you need to do next. And we're going to give you a book to take away with you as well, and to take a few details. If you didn't raise your hand but you prayed that prayer, you're part of the first group or the second group, you can still go through the door. But it's important that you do. Are we ready? 1, 2, 3. You go now as quickly as you can. Let's give them a round of applause as they go. You go now. Brilliant. You go now. Fantastic.